Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Dan McGann and today we're going over some information that was given to us in the most recent dev update regarding the Alpha 2 playtest from Margaret Crone.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up in the Q&A, but we can bring it up here as well because it is, pertinent to Alpha 2. But basically, we have a plan. So just stick with us. We'll share information with you guys as we go forward. But right now, we're not going to be. We don't want to get people all hyped for what's in Alpha 2 when we're not quite there, right? So we have a cadence in which we will be providing information, but stay tuned. We'll have a guide for Alpha 2 with information on what you can expect, what features you're going to be able to see, what systems, what archetypes are going to be available, etc. at the start of Alpha 2. And then as we go forward throughout Alpha 2, because it is going to be a long one. It's not similar to Alpha 1 where, we were up for like a month and then we're down. So it will be a long-term thing that we're going to be doing for quite a bit, and we will be sharing updates throughout that. For the big updates, you'll see news posts for those with information on what systems and features and content is going to be available for you all. And then obviously for the smaller ones, we'll have smaller patch updates, but for all of the updates, we'll always give you guys patch notes for those. They'll just be displayed in different ways. So for the big ones, you'll see news posts. For the smaller ones, you will see those probably through the forums or whatever means we decide that we're going to be doing those in, probably in a couple different places, but making sure that all of that information is available to you all as we move forward, especially for our Alpha 2 playtesters.
Personally, I have had some speculation that this playtest would be longer than Alpha 1. However, when Margaret says long term, that comes as a bit of a surprise in the possibility of the length. My speculation as to why I thought Alpha 2 would be longer than Alpha 1 is mainly because of the Unreal Engine 5 update, but also just the amount of systems and mechanics that we haven't seen. Now, with that said, having to go back after upgrading the engine and having to possibly give things a retouch or rework assets, environments, or whatever else that needed upgrades probably took a good chunk of time and possibly was longer than expected. Again, this is just speculation on my part. Intrepid isn't a juggernaut of a company, it's an indie dev studio. Even in this live stream, Steven says they just hired 200 employees, so that could also be a factor on overall development. Now, with Margaret saying they will be giving players a guide as to what is going to be available at the start of Alpha 2 is a great thing. She goes on to say patch notes and updates will become available over time, which players will have access to that information. While patch notes are great, I would rather when Alpha 2 gets closer to launch see a roadmap format along with patch notes. I know this might be something that puts some strain on Intrepid in trying to keep a timetable launch of whatever it is they want tested during this phase, but I find roadmaps are far more appealing to players when it comes to announcements other than just patch notes. Might be something to consider if this Alpha 2 is going to be a long-term tested period, as they say. Now comes a few big questions. The first, how long will Alpha 2 be? Personally, I had it in my head that Alpha 2 was going to be maybe at most 3 to 4 months in length, with obviously multiple wipes of servers and new content being introduced during this playtest. My reasoning behind this is because obviously we know the desert biome and a few other things are going to be added into Alpha 2 after Alpha 2 launches. Now I'm not so sure. Before I continue further into how long I think Alpha 2 is going to run, I want to ask a next big question, but also just a lot of concern that's going on within the Ashes community right now. Like, is this now going to be labeled as early access? Many people within the community have been quite vocal about this being a possibility and not wanting this to be a permanent state as some games have done in the past. And I'm right there with you. I think it's a bad idea. Now, I think a way to get around the early access debate is them just sticking with what has been said. This is going to be a long-term Alpha 2 test. It's not going to be permanent, but obviously we have to wait and see. We really don't know, and if they do have a cutoff date, that's obviously going to be a good thing. It's just speculation at this point on everybody's part, other than obviously if you're a dev at Intrepid, so be patient, just wait and see. Now, as far as the actual length of this Alpha 2, I think looking at what we haven't seen compared to what we have seen before and during the Alpha 1, to maybe get a sense of how long it could be. But it's obviously speculation on my part. So to start, the desert biome. We've seen nothing of the desert biome since July 2022, and even then it was a trailer. You could also say that about the Jundark and the tropics, as we haven't seen anything of those regions as well since Alpha 1, along with the other half of the map and the Underrealm. Now, if you're going to be running a long-term Alpha 2 playtest, it would almost make sense that we would get maybe a portion of the Underrealm and whatever other biomes that they have planned or are working on. if you're going to run it this long, you might as well get at least part of those biomes into the game at some point. When it comes to archetypes, we haven't seen the Bard other than a 20-second clip posted to Twitter. The Rogue is clearly in a permanent state of stealth, and we've never seen the Summoner, although a good amount of debate has happened since this most recent update. Any type of large-scale PvP tying into node sieges or castle sieges since Alpha 1 and pre-Alpha 1 has been non-existent. Now I understand that may upset people, seeing as we just got a Caravan PvP system update a couple months ago. However, obviously we know, along with pretty much every update we get, these live streams are scripted. One side in that update was designed to lose always. I don't count that as real PvP. Yes, we've seen player versus player. I don't give a shit about the actual debate. It wasn't real PvP. I don't count it. As we can see on the screen here, Monster Coin events haven't been shown since May 25th, 2017, and even then, that was clearly, as it shows at the top of the footage, pre-alpha. The corruption system we got to see briefly when it was applied to Steven during the Ranger archetype update this past December, but no information or updates on it at all. Now, I'm just going to say this in regard to the corruption system. I think this is a system that really needs to be focused on, but also needs to have a very, very big testing period. And I think the reason why this is going to have such a big testing period, and especially where there might be a lot of focus on Intrepid's part for this particular system, is because of how important it is. We know that this is a PvX game designed to try and mesh and blend together PvE and PvP content. If they don't nail this system, they don't have it right going into Beta 1 and Beta 2, the results could be disastrous. Mayoral commissions that also tie into the mandate system, which should have been included in this most recent update, but never even got spoken about. We also haven't seen anything on mules or muling, another form of transportation for goods and materials aside from caravans. Even though Steven does answer a question regarding it during the recent livestream, we still haven't seen an actual video of it. Naval content, which is coming to Alpha 2 according to Intrepid, hopefully allowing players access to merchant vessels, ships, get to see firsthand how the PvP and the flagging system is going to work. I expect to see this sometime in the next couple of months or maybe a month or two after Alpha 2 has launched. We also still need to see how augmenting your existing skills works after choosing a secondary archetype at level 25. And the two things I'm most disappointed about not being shown yet, no updates at dungeons or raids. Now I know we've seen that stuff pre-Alpha 1 and during Alpha 1, but the fact that we haven't seen it in Unreal Engine 5, that's been a huge disappointment for myself personally. So I think the length of Alpha 2 is going to be much longer than most expect, especially with everything I've just listed that we haven't seen yet or haven't had an update since Alpha 1 or pre-Alpha 1. And when the Alpha 2 launch date is announced, we will probably get an insane amount of information to pour over. It's just a waiting game at this point. We're obviously just a few months off of quarter 3. Whether or not we still get that quarter 3 launch date still remains to be seen. So for now, that's going to do it for this video. I'd like to know your thoughts and opinions on the upcoming Alpha 2 test, especially with the information received from Margaret Crone, or anything that I've brought up, if I've missed something, or if you're expecting to see something else in Alpha 2 that I haven't listed, or maybe it's something they have listed and I didn't think about it. Please leave a comment down below. So thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video.